Which games are must bets for week 6 of the 2023 NFL season? What's going on, gridiron gamblers and BLVers? It's Mitch here, back with another week of NFL best bets versus the spread, week 6 of this NFL season, where my goal is to help you win some money this NFL season. Last week, I told you it was a bounce back week. And what happened? We bounced back. 5-1 overall last week, 4-1 versus the spread at a 66% on the season. Week 6 is all about steadying that ship, staying in a comfortable above 60% range. That's my goal for this season. Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly NFL best bets versus the spread, just like this. And let's break down my 5 favorite picks versus the spread for week 6. Let's kick it off with my first pick for week 6, which is the Minnesota Vikings, -2.5 on the road at the Chicago Bears. I understand no Justin Jefferson. We've heard that news. But does it really matter? If anything, we're simply getting a better number versus arguably one of the worst defenses in all of football, and I don't think it's arguable. Chicago has a very bad defense. If it were not for the historically bad Broncos defense, this would be talked about as probably the worst defense in football. And the Minnesota Vikings have a very good offense. Justin Jefferson or not, we saw that late in that Chiefs game. They were driving the field without Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison is the real deal. I like KJ Osborne. TJ Hawkinson is a top 5 tight end in this sport. The offensive line is really solid, and they're getting a little bit more of a run game going with the complement of Cam Akers coming to town. But what I really like about this matchup is not only is Kirk Cousins facing a really bad Chicago defense, Brian Flores is facing a overhyped Justin Fields. So he's played the Denver Broncos and he's played the Washington Commanders defenses. 2 of the bottom 3 or 4 defenses in the NFL. The Vikings are not exactly the 85 Bears here, but Brian Flores is known for what? Blitzing. He's known for being aggressive. And the Bears, Justin Fields, the worst quarterback versus the blitz over the last 2 seasons. So Justin Fields is not good against the blitz because he typically holds on to the football. And when that happens, you allow pressure to get there, you take sacks, and turnovers will come in this game. I overall believe that the Vikings defense will cause more issues, cause more problems, and cause more turnovers than the Chicago Bears, which ultimately will allow me to get the better quarterback, the better offense, and in my opinion, the better team. The Vikings have played a really tough schedule. I think this is a perfect spot to fade the Bears. Give me the Vikings under a field goal at -2.5. My second pick versus the spread for week number 6. I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers, -6, 6.5, potentially 7. I would prefer to get this number under a touchdown if you can. I actually bet this at -4.5, and some of my patrons, which by the way, check out my Patreon for all of my weekly bets in the description. I'll also put the Patreon link at the pinned comment in the comment section below, so check that out. But a lot of my patrons are on the Niners at -4.5 to -5.5, and they jumped on that number below 6. But just for the sake of this video and for the sake of the realism and the timely nature of this bet, I have to give it to you at -6.5, -7, but I still like the bet. It's just not as comfortable as getting it clearly below a touchdown and potentially even under 6. But that being said, the reason I love this bet, a lot of people are going to talk about, well, this is a scary spot for the Niners. They just blew out the Cowboys. They were the best, performance anybody maybe has had all year long from an offensive, defensive, special team standpoint, all three phases clicking. They look like the best team in football, and now they're going to a team on the road in an awkward time slot, right? They're a West Coast team going East Coast, playing in the early window. They're in Cleveland. They're playing a team that's off of a bye. There is a kind of a tricky situation. But going back to last week, where I said the Niners were a best bet -3.5 versus the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys are better than Cleveland, in my opinion. Cleveland's defense might very well be better than Dallas's, but here's the difference. Cleveland's offense, especially without Deshaun Watson, is pretty much non-existent against this Niners defense. I just can't imagine the Cleveland Browns scoring more than 17 points in this game if Deshaun Watson is not suiting up. If it's PJ Walker, given the status of this offensive line, which really is having issues with pressure on the edges, you're going to have Nick Bosa and Randy Gregory now in the lineup for the San Francisco 49ers. That pass rush is going to overwhelm in those moments. I also view a Browns run game that isn't as explosive and consistent without Nick Chubb, so I don't really see them being able to run all over the Niners, which is already difficult in its own right. I just think this Niners defense will come to play here, even if the Niners offense struggles with the Browns defense. But I don't really know if that's going to be the case the way they're playing. Kyle is in his bag. Purdy is super consistent. He is accurate. He is making subtle plays on the move. Ayuk is uncoverable right now. McCaffrey's the best back in the league. Kittle just scored 3 touchdowns. This team is clicking, and I think their offensive line can hold their own against a really strong Cleveland pass rush. And I believe Kyle will really wear down this defense. With the amount that the offense of the Niners will be on the field here, I kind of feel like they're just going to wear down the Browns defense slowly but surely, connect on some explosive plays, run the ball effectively, keep Myles Garrett out of the backfield by getting after Brock Purdy, by running the ball, screening the ball as well. So I really feel like this is a Kyle Shanahan team that is just unbelievable right now. They are by far the best team in football. They have arguably the best offense and best defense in the sport. And I'm just going to ride that right now. I don't know if Vegas can truly correct themselves. They can truly create spreads for this type of team in this season. So I'm just going to go with the Niners until it's proven incorrect. This team is an absolute train. And this is not a matchup, especially from the Cleveland offensive standpoint, that scares me. A one-dimensional team like Cleveland cannot play with San Francisco. So give me the Niners minus a touchdown in this game. My third best bet for week number 6 is the Philadelphia Eagles -7 versus the New York Jets. This is not one that I see being common, but this is a pick that I really feel pretty good about because the New York Jets, I feel like I've had a pretty good feel for them. I was wrong about the Jets being able to cover that Chiefs spread, which I think was 9.5. Do you guys think the Chiefs are 2.5 points better than the Philadelphia Eagles? Because personally, I don't. I've been watching both teams. I really don't feel that way. So that's first and foremost. Both games are in New York, by the way. Secondly, I feel like the Jets covered exactly the way I thought they would against Denver. Right? Denver has an awful defense. I thought the Jets defense would do enough against the Broncos. It happened. I picked the Patriots against the Jets because the Patriots own the Jets. In this matchup, it feels like people are just not accounting for the fact that the Jets have looked good offensively against the Broncos, and Zach Wilson played a good game against the Chiefs. But the one area their defense has suffered is in the run game. Like, they've allowed a lot of explosive runs. They've allowed teams to run the ball down their throat at times. Even my Patriots, who look putrid, ran the ball against the Jets. Now imagine the best running team in football over the last 2 seasons coming to town now. So this is where I think people are getting it wrong with the Eagles and the Jets. I think people think the Jets defense will keep them in the game. And I just feel like with the Eagles defense, the way they can stop the run, especially without Elijah Vera Tucker there with the Jets, I don't see the Jets being able to run the ball all over the Eagles. The Eagles have been very good against the run this year, which is going to force Zach Wilson in some uncomfortable spots against a really strong, talented pass rush with pretty opportunistic corners who can take the football away. So I feel like the Eagles will get a turnover or two. I definitely feel they'll get more than a couple sacks, and I feel like they'll stop the run, which is going to allow the Eagles to stay on offense, control the clock, run the ball against a Jets defense that is susceptible to the run. And I feel like the Eagles will just bully their way into points. And then if the Jets try to stack the box, even with the Jets corners who are kind of banged up right now, the Eagles just have Dallas Goedert, who's playing great, A.J. Brown, who's unstoppable, and Devontae Smith. There's just too many options, and I really liked how Jalen Hurts played last week. I thought that might have been his best game of the season. So I just think the Eagles are starting to figure it out from a three phases standpoint. Was impressed with their passing game against the Rams. I think their running game wins them this game and covers this game against the Jets on the road. My fourth best bet for week number 6 is the Cincinnati Bengals at home versus the Seattle Seahawks -2.5. I'm going with Joe Burrow here. I was scared off of the pick last week. I nearly made it a best bet, and I regret not making it a best bet almost as soon as I turned that game on. The Cincinnati Bengals look to be closer to being back. And I really think there's an opportunity for the Bengals this year to be that team in the AFC if they can figure everything out. The AFC is not as strong as we thought it really was. And I think this is a huge game to indicate where the Bengals are headed this season. They're playing a Seattle team that is good, but I wouldn't say that Seattle is a great team. They certainly have flaws. I feel like their offensive line at times can be a little bit inconsistent. Their run game at times has been inconsistent. Kenneth Walker rather goes for a big gain or a loss. Right? Geno can be really good at times with his receiving core, but you watch them and it just feels like they're not getting the absolute most out of their passing game that they potentially could. And defensively, the Seahawks are extremely flawed. Everyone's kind of talking about that 11-sack performance against the Giants. I think the identity and idea of the Seattle defense is inflated based on that single performance. We saw a Rams team that is a Sean McVay-led Rams offense kind of pick apart the Seahawks in week 1. Now, that's a far ways away, few weeks back, but this is a Cincinnati attack that's led by offensive head coach Zach Taylor, who is, of course, from the Sean McVay tree coming from LA. So I do believe that there's going to be some things that the Bengals can take and say, oh, Sean did this, Sean did that. Joe, you can do this. Matthew was successful with this, and they're going to be able to attack this secondary. I really believe that the Bengals are going to have a lot of success in the passing game in this game because I don't think Seattle really has a great pass rush. I don't think Seattle's corners can really stick with the Bengals. And here's a big thing. Seattle allows the most plays in the NFL. They are 32nd in plays. So that means Cincinnati, what were they really effective with against the Cardinals? Short underneath passes, opening up explosive passes down the field. I think that will be the case again because of how they play defensively. And I think when they blitz, Jamar Chase, potentially T. Higgins if he plays, I hope, will be able to take advantage of the downfield attack. And on the other side, I think Cincinnati's defense is decent. It's not great this year, but I love how their linebackers are playing. I think Trey Hendrickson's playing fantastic. I don't really think Seattle is going to have as much success as I envisioned Cincinnati having, especially in Cincinnati where the Bengals defense has played much better. So I'm going to go with the Bengals -2.5. Love this under a field goal. At 3, it's less enticing, but I would still bet the Bengals in this matchup. That is my 4th best bet. Now, my 5th best bet and final best bet versus the spread is the Dallas Cowboys -2 on Monday Night Football at the LA Chargers in a home game on the road. There's going to be way more Dallas Cowboys fans in LA than there are Charger fans. That is absolute facts. This is another road game for the Chargers where they're playing in their home stadium. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, a lot of people are going to be really excited to bet the Chargers at home on Monday night versus the Cowboys because of how the Cowboys looked against the Niners. But what I'm buying is the Niners are just that damn good. And this is the worst matchup in football for the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers. This is a much better matchup for the Dallas Cowboys, especially offensively. The Chargers defense is not very good. Their pass rush is overrated, and really it's all come from Khalil Mack this season. Joey Bosa might not even play in this game. It does appear that Derwin James and Austin Eckler might come back to the lineup for the Chargers, but their secondary has been atrocious all year long, and I do believe that CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Brandon Cooks, and company will get back on track through the passing game, but it's really all going to start through their running game. I think Tony Pollard's going to have a big day, and I think that's going to open things up for their receiving core, and that will allow them to control the clock, control the game, and keep Herbert on the sidelines. On the other side, when Dallas gets in the lead, they are very tough to beat because their pass rush is so fast and so ferocious. And without Corey Linsley on the offensive line, I worry about how the Chargers can block the Cowboys. I also know that Stephon Gilmore will do a good job against Keenan Allen if that's the matchup for the Cowboys, because he's done it so many times before, especially coming from a Patriots point of view, where I've seen that matchup a lot of times, and it's always favored Gilmore. I just don't think without Mike Williams that this offense is going to consistently air the ball out, which is what they want to do against Dallas. Even if they're able to run the ball a bit better than expected here, I just don't think they're going to be able to sustain enough drives. Dallas's defense is legit good. I think they just faced a bad matchup, a hot play caller, and a really good offense that can do so many different things in the San Francisco 49ers. And it also coupled with the worst matchup that their offense faces in the NFL. They just don't play well against the Niners. It's a bad matchup for them because the Niners are so fast on defense. They are good against the run. They take it away, and their linebackers are just ridiculous. The Cowboys will not be facing that in LA this week. The LA Chargers linebackers are atrocious. They're non-existent. So for me, Dallas is playing just a different level of opponent. Not to mention, they're actually facing an even coaching matchup here. McCarthy knows Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore knows McCarthy. But Dan Quinn will know how to stop Kellen Moore's offense because it's very similar to Dallas's. So to me, I like Dallas in this game. I just think they're being a little bit underrated right now, and I think they're in a big bounce back spot on Monday Night Football on the road. So those are my picks, my best bets versus the spread for week number 6. My teaser of the week, I'm taking the Eagles -1, the Niners -0.5 point, or potentially -1 this week as my teaser of the week. So 2 favorites by a touchdown, tease them down to 1 point or so, and you have the teaser of the week with 2 of the best teams. My top 2 teams right now in my power rankings in the NFL. Thank you guys for watching. Gronk, spike the like button. Subscribe for more. It's Mitch. Good luck with your bets this week. Peace.